Mr. Ken Oforiatta, the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagben, is just coming in, and the Speaker of Parliament just took about 10 minutes break to allow many MPs and other ministers to just take some break. He has just come in, and the session is about to begin. We are about to hear from some more of the arguments on both sides as to why Finance Minister Ken Oforiatta must be censured. So the Speaker of Parliament has just taken a seat. I'll put you back in Parliament. The other side.
Sorry. Yes. It's now the time for the first gentleman at the bar, the learned Attorney General and Minister of Justice. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, indeed, the importance of the matters in issue have compelled me to express a view. Mr. Speaker, I earlier on had some interactions with you, and I had the privilege of presenting my opinion on it to you formally. After my submissions, I will tender it before
Honorable
the House.
Attorney General, what was the word you used? You had some word with me.
Mr. Speaker, I earlier on had the opportunity to have some engagement with you. And
You had an opportunity to share
my
your opinion.
Yes, on the matter.
Yes, with me.
Mr. Speaker,
and we
after
had
that,
some disagreements. Yes.
Mr. Speaker,
go on.
Afterwards, no, he also agreed. And that's very important, and I'll come to that.
Yes, go on.
Mr. Speaker, indeed, the very first point I made.
Yes.
The Speaker, the first point I made.
Honorable members, he is the Attorney General and Minister for Justice. So let's listen to him. He's going to definitely focus on the law. And so let's listen to him.
Speaker, and respectfully, the matters I see to bring to the attention of the House are points that impinge on the legitimacy of the process that was undertaken by the ad-hoc committee that we set up. Mr. Speaker, I think they are so important and fundamental that I ought to participate in these proceedings. Mr. Speaker, as I indicated, I will, after my submissions, formally present to the House the opinion that I shared with you. The first point I made, and indeed I'm very happy to note, was actually considered by Mr. Speaker, and you agreed with me, is that the proceedings of the ad hoc committee clearly were quasi-judicial. And being a matter of importance, I followed the proceedings of the ad hoc committee, and it was with great alarm and dismay that I heard a co-chair of the ad hoc committee describe the committee's work as a political process or a constitutional political process and not a quasi-judicial process. Indeed, the co-chair, Dr. Dominic Ayini, honorable member for the Bogatanga, indicated, Bogatanga Central, thank you very much, indicated that the exercise undertaken by the committee, and I quote, was not a quasi-judicial process, and that it was engaged in what I describe as an amorphous constitutional political process. Mr. Speaker, the ruling made by you on 10th November was so clear that a committee will be constituted under Standing Order 201 and it will be guided by Standing Order 106. Mr. Speaker, a perusal of Standing Order 106 leaves one in no doubt that all the processes set out under the Standing Order constitute the work of the committee into nothing but quasi-judicial. Mr. Speaker, I am of the view that it is actually in view of the misapprehension by the committee or by the co-chair of the nature of work that the committee was tasked with, that certain fundamental rights of the Honorable Minister for Finance were grossly violated. Mr. Speaker, I refer to the request by the Minister for Finance for a production of documents that he required in order to enable himself, in order to assist the defense of himself. I also refer to the request for full particulars by the minister in order to assist in an efficient defense of his matter. The Speaker, the committee noted at page 5 of its report that in a letter dated 15 November 2022, the Honourable Minister requested full particulars of the facts and support of each of the allegations and the relevant documents or evidence in support of the allegations. The respondent made the request in the exercise of his right to a fair hearing guaranteed by the Constitution. The committee considered the request and noted that even though the request was legitimate, it was impracticable in the light of the time granted the committee to report to Parliament. In the circumstances and in the interest of fair hearing and justice, it was agreed with Counsel for the Minister that the verbatim transcript of the proceedings relating to the submissions by proponents be made available to the Minister instead of formal particulars for each of the grounds contained in the motion. Mr. Speaker, this is where the committee, with all respect, got it grossly wrong. The committee, in the circumstances, sacrificed justice and due process on the altar of expediency and convenience. And that, for me, is unconstitutional and rendered the whole exercise a nullity. The Speaker, indeed, full particulars to enable the Minister to have a proper defense to the action will constitute a setting out of the allegations against him, a setting out of the particulars in support of the allegations, and not what they described as grounds for the allegations. The Speaker, indeed, it's even absurd to describe the allegations as grounds for the allegations. If they are grounds for the allegations, then the question I will ask is what were the allegations themselves? Because there must be allegations, then there must be grounds in support of the allegations. So indeed, Mr. Speaker, the House, with all respect, would note that there was right from the inception a violation of due process against the Honourable Minister for Finance. And Mr. Speaker, and the Speaker, the same co-chair, the same co-chair, of the ad-hoc committee who misled the committee on the trajectory of a violation of due process. My very good friend, Dr. Dominic Aini, again stated very erroneously that the committee was not bound by Article 23 of the Constitution. And Mr. Speaker, I consider it as a very serious and grave error because indeed it showed that the committee misapprehended the nature of the work that it was supposed to do. Article 23 of the Constitution is part of the Constitution. It is applied by the courts. It is not a case where it applies only to administrative bodies. And Mr. Speaker, the Supreme Court has actually had occasion to pronounce on the applicability of Article 23 to quasi-judicial proceedings. I refer to the case of Awuni versus West Africa Examinations Council, reported in 2003-2004, Volume 1, Speaker of the Ghana Report, 471, where the Supreme Court stated, and I quote, the scope of Article 23 is such that there is no distinction between acts done in exercise of ordinary administrative functions and quasi-judicial functions. The Speaker, the contention by Honourable Dr. Aini clearly was most unfortunate and erroneous. And I think that misled the
Honourable
committee
in General. Just a minute. He is up on his feet, so I have to listen to him. Yes. Honourable Dominic Aini. Off the mic. Off your mic. Off your microphone. Honourable Attorney General, please resume your seat. I'll invite you. Yes, Speaker. Honourable Dominic Aini.
Yes, Speaker. The Honourable Attorney General has, on 2 occasions at the Bar of Parliament, mentioned me in relation to the debate that occurred or that is occurring within the chamber. In respect of the issue regarding Article 23, he says that I was in error because Article 23 was interpreted in Awuni and Wayek to apply to quasi-judicial bodies. Mr. Speaker, Parliament is a prototypical political chamber. Mr. Speaker, this is the people, the chamber of the people's representatives.
Honorable member, as much as you are propounding your side of the law, that is debating. It's not point of order. So you disagree with him. You disagree with him. So allow him to put across the case.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I would state that indeed any contention that Article 23 does not apply to this Honorable House because the political chamber is the most absurd and dangerous proposition at all. Mr. Speaker, and I say so because, as I indicated, the courts, which are definitely not administrative bodies, even apply Article 23 of the Constitution. Article 23 is the fulcrum for fair hearing by all bodies which are engaged in either judicial or quasi-judicial proceedings. Article 23 is the yardstick for reasonableness, due process, and compliance with all the demands of fair justice. And for that matter, it cannot be right for the former Deputy Attorney General, with all respect, to say that Article 23 does not apply to this Honorable House. Mr. Speaker, another observation which I made, in my opinion, is that the committee violated one fundamental principle of natural justice. The principles of natural justice are two. Apart from that a person must be heard, the auditory party, a very important point is nemo juris in causa sua, that one ought not to be a judge in his or her own cause. Mr. Speaker, we found a committee in this incongruous and absurd situation where a proponent of the motion was a co-chair, and that is again Dr. Dominic Aini. And that, for me, with all respect, was wrong and rendered the proceedings of the committee a nullity. The Speaker, I respectfully submit that, indeed, if the integrity of the proceedings engaging by both committees are to be protected and respected, then indeed, it ought to have been chaired by persons who are not proponents. Otherwise, it put themselves in that unfortunate situation where they were judges in their own cause. And that is wrong. Speaker, I again want to refer to some of the allegations which have been characterized as grounds by the committee. And I say with all respect,
Honorable Attorney General, I have time for you. Don't worry. But this will be the last point of order. Yes, I am watching my listen very well. Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, the issue that the Attorney General and Minister of Justice is urging on this House, the legal trajectory he's going, is very, very dangerous. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member, is that a point of order? Is that a point of order? Please. The Honorable Member can't hear me because you are making noise.
Yes.
Is that a point of order?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Order.
Mr. Speaker. Order 89. Pardon? 89. Sorry.
Honorable members.
91. The Speaker, 91. Mr. Speaker, 91. The
Order 91.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, he is saying that we are equal to an administrative body. Yes, you cannot be equal to an administrative
the order is saying. Is that what Order 91 is saying? Honorable members, because this is novel,
yes.
He was a very good student of mine when he was in the law school. So until he went to Harvard. I want to hear from him, but it should come under a point of order. If it is one that you want to debate, you may pass on to your next colleague if you want to debate, because now you can raise only a point of order. And he was very close to the late Bimpombuta, who was a good friend of mine at the law school. So, he's very good. He's very good at the law. And you know Bimpombuta very well. So, yes.
Mr. Speaker, if you notice, the whole day I've restrained myself from speaking because you've tried to structure the debate. It is also novel for us to have the Attorney General and the Minister for Justice coming at, the bar to intervene in the middle of a debate to give a legal opinion. It is novel. So it is going to be difficult.
I don't know why you are referring to the dispatch box as the bar. You are just repeating what Honorable Dominic Ayine has said. He is simply speaking at the dispatch box. That must be noted. You may continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. So it's difficult to really find an appropriate provision of our standing order to intervene unless you grant special leave. Because if I come under Order 92B, then he will have to yield to me. And I don't believe he will yield to me, Mr. Speaker. And yet we will lose the opportunity, a fine opportunity, to discuss the issues that he's presented to us.
What you are saying is not point of order, but it's important for me to say this. I think that leadership should have passed some of this information to members. This is one of the issues we discussed, and it was agreed that he be granted the opportunity to contribute to the debate. So that I granted the leave for him to do so. This was discussed and agreed upon. Please, Leonard Attorney General may continue.
Mr. Speaker, my leader, I'll pass on the information to my leader, who will take it up in the concluding.
You don't need to disclose that to me.
Speaker, thank you very much. Speaker, I will quickly move on to the grounds that were in support of whether the allegations or a petition or the motion for the censure. The Speaker, my observation quickly is that none of the grounds, apart from ground 4, constituted a proper subject matter for the passage of a vote of censure. The Speaker, indeed, if that is the case, then this Honorable House was also not clogged with jurisdiction at all to consider any of the grounds for or in support of the motion for censure, apart from what I think may pass, which is ground 4. Mr. Speaker, I will illustrate why. Ground 1, which is the conflict of interest, it has already been argued extensively that indeed Charge is the authority with sole jurisdiction to probe matters bordering on conflict of interest. I will just quickly refer to the holding of the Supreme Court at page 845 in Okieto Ablakwa versus Attorney General, reported in 2012, volume 2 Program Report. Just a very short sentence. It says the issue of conflict of interest raised here can easily be resolved by a recourse to Article 287 of the Constitution. Article 287 mandates the complaints against a public officer under Chapter 24 of the Constitution to be investigated exclusively by the Commission for Human Rights and Social Justice. The Speaker, even the courts avoid a determination of issues of conflict of interest. How much more Parliament? Even the courts will shy away from probing matters related to conflict of interest. And the highest court of the land, the Supreme Court, has stated that these are matters to be investigated exclusively. Mr. Speaker, the second ground, in my view, also raises a matter for constitutional interpretation. Mr. Speaker, the second ground states unconstitutional withdrawals from the Constituted Fund in blatant contravention of Article 178 of the 1992 Constitution. Clearly, on the face of this ground, an allegation bordering on an enforcement of the Constitution has been alleged. So, ground 2 strikes at an enforcement of the Constitution. It says unconstitutional withdrawals from the Constituted Fund in blatant contravention of Article 178 of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, Article 2 of the Constitution is quite clear. And Article 2, Clause 1 is in these terms. It says a person who alleges that an enactment or anything in or done under the authority of that or any other enactment, or an act or omission of a person is inconsistent with or in contravention of the Constitution, may bring an action to the Supreme Court. So clearly, Mr. Speaker, I was not the one who formulated the grounds of the petition, or the complaint, or the motion for censure. It was the proponents themselves. Once they formulated a ground of the motion for censure in the manner which suggests a contravention of the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, my submission is that it's the Supreme Court which has the reason to determine it, and not this honorable court at all. And not this honorable house. I'm sorry. Mr. Speaker, ground 3 is in similar terms. It alleges unconstitutionality, and the Supreme Court is the one clause the jurisdiction to determine such issues. Mr. Speaker, the matters that are raised in grounds 5 to 7, in my respectful view, are political matters. Mr. Speaker, the question one ought to ask, what is the standard for determining whether a minister has acted competently or incompetently? I use myself as an example. I, the Attorney General of the Republic, if I lose 2 cases, is it a basis for a person to say that I've acted incompetently? If I lose 8 cases, is it a basis for a person to say that I've acted incompetently and I ought to remove from office? In similar vein, if a minister for finance manages the economy in a way that you consider to be improper, is it a basis for the party proposing for censure? Mr. Speaker, the conclusion I draw from all of this is that the basis for motion for censure must be an act which strikes as misconduct, illegality, or violation of the oath of office of a minister. To the extent that none of these matters has been established in the proceedings before the ad-hoc committee, I will certainly submit that the proceedings of the ad-hoc committee, with all respect, especially on account of the illegalities that I have demonstrated, were forced upon the committee by my good friend and were improper, and therefore the motion ought to be encouraged.
Your time is up.
Let's become very grateful for proceed.
Honorable members, I granted leave to the Minister of State and Attorney General to contribute to the debate. First, he is a Minister of State, and by law, Ministers of State are entitled constitutionally to participate in the debate of the House. Second, having occupied the position of Attorney General for some time, I thought that we would get value in his contribution in taking a decision. He has demonstrated his understanding of the law. As he told you, I had an interaction, to use his word, before. And so there's nothing wrong with what he has done. I gave him some more minutes just to let him conclude on the issues that he has raised, and I think he has done that. So we will now move to the next person, and I will now give the opportunity to the Honorable Samuel Oblakwa Okujetu.
Right, Honorable Speaker.
What is the issue? What is the issue?
Indeed, I'm sorry. I indicated earlier on I was going to tender my opinion. If I may, that's fine. Thank you.
Honorable Minister, clearly, the decision of the House will be impacted by what you have submitted already. If you lay a document here, nobody is going to read it before taking a decision. So there is no need for that one. It is rather the document that Honorable Isaac Adongo said he was going to lay, which I'm sure he has laid. That is what is part of the proceedings. But that definitely will not also be read before the decision is taken. Well, we are taking the decision today. So, Ablakwa, it's your turn.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this debate. Mr. Speaker.
Your majority leader is up on his feet.
Mr. Speaker, the Attorney General made an application to you that you would want to tender the legal arguments. Unless the Speaker decides that he will not accommodate it. But he made an application to you that because he's not going to be able to speak to every one of them, he would want to lay the documents. He just wanted to do that. That is, if you agree with the application that he made.
Honorable Majority Leader, the law is this. I granted the Attorney General the opportunity to contribute to the debate, which he did, and he was timed out. It was not during that time any application was made to me. So when he came back later, it's now left to me. Please. Honorable members, leadership of the House is to guide the Speaker. But it is the Speaker that guides the House, not leadership. And so, what I heard and what I saw happen is after he's resumed his seat, that he came back to try to make an application to lay a statement. I'm sure the statement is what he was referring to. But actually, he never read any statement. He was just speaking viva voce. That is why he made his submissions. And I said that is what will be captured by the Hansard. If he had said from the onset that I have this, I will refer to it and I will lay it for the House, or I call upon the reporters, the Hansard office, to capture what I have in its entirety. Completely entitled to lay it. But that one is for me to grant him leave or not after he has resumed his seat. And that is why I said that was not necessary. And I gave my ruling. If you want to contest it, substantive motion. Let's move on. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, with respect, that's why I said the application was made. Maybe you didn't hear. But as part of he making his own submission, he said so. At the beginning. Mr. Speaker, if the table is, the chair is indicating to us that he did not hear that, that's a different matter. But he made that application at the very outset. So when he finished and sat down, the deputy leader was urging him, following after that, to then come and lay the document. And that's what I'm saying, that if you didn't hear, he really made that application at the very outset. But it's still for you to admit it or not to admit it. That's the point I'm making. But he made the application.
Honorable Majority Leader, if he had earlier on made the application from the very beginning, there was no need for him to repeat the application again after submission. Please, he would have just passed on the document to the table office without making the application again to me. That is exactly what Honorable Isaac Adongo did. He didn't make the application to me again. Once you make the application and having objected to it and you proceeded, at the end of the day, you lay the document. You don't make the application again after resuming your seat. You don't repeat it. If really, because the official records will show that he had made the application earlier on, so he can present it. But if you are to make it now, it's my considered opinion that it's not allowed. And so, please, can we proceed? Are we clear that if you had made the application earlier on, it's a matter of just laying it? Yes, Minority Leader. Let me listen to Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the Attorney General, as recognized by Article 88 of the Constitution, is one of the rare recognized portfolios that the 1992 Constitution itself recognizes. Therefore, we place premium on any person who occupies the coveted office of Attorney General. Mr. Speaker, before he proceeds to lay it, I won't go into the merits of whether it should be laid or not. Let him read what he's laying for the record. What is he laying? No, if it is his contribution to the debate, Hansard verbatim has his contribution. If he is laying any other material, you have repeatedly, Majority Leader, even closing remarks, reminded me, Haruna, that since you don't know what is in my closing remark, I should not lay it. You have repeatedly reminded me, not once, not twice, that since you do not know the content of my closing remarks, I should not just say that I'm laying it. Let the Majority Leader know, let the Attorney General read what he's laying, Mr. Speaker. What is he laying? We need to know. He must read it. It has a title. So read it before it is late, Mr. Speaker. I make that clear to you. Thank you.
Honorable Minority Leader, the position taken by the Speaker is this. We have the official report. The official report is capturing verbatim what happens on the floor. If it is true that in the course of his submission, he did state that he was going to lay the document, then he is entitled to do so. The official report will capture that. If that is not the case, he is not entitled to lay the report. That is my ruling.
Mr. Speaker, I respect your ruling. The Honorable Adongo, before he laid his paper, made everybody and the public appreciate that he is laying Bank of Ghana response to his press statement. So we all know what he's laying. He has made a contribution to a debate. He is laying. We just want the title of what he's laying. Because we can let him speak to it. Let him tell us the title. We don't just want to go and read it. We want him to tell us what the title of it, what he's laying is.
Honorable Minority Leader, that is where I took issue. But they said he stated it when he was making his submissions. I said the same, that I didn't hear him. But they are insisting, and so I gave the ruling that if he really did, it will be captured by the official report. And so he's entitled to lay it. If he didn't do that, he is not entitled. That is it. Please, can we now listen to my son? Oh,
Thank you.
Honorable Suhini, your name is not here. Yes.
Well, thank you very much, my dear daddy. Right Honorable Speaker, the enormity...
Honorable Samuel Okujatu Ablakwa, you can't address me that way. I can address you as my son. But if you are to address me, you have to say, Mr. Speaker.
Well noted and well guided, Right Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the enormity of the assignment before us today is one that we must not take lightly. Since this whole Article 82 vote of censure exercise commenced, we have been bombarded by lawyers who have been marshaled by the Honorable Finance Minister, right from committee all the way to today. We just listened to the Honorable Attorney General. The question that I want to pose, Right Honorable Speaker, is that who speaks for the victims of the Honorable Finance Minister? As we speak, there is so much pain, there is so much anguish. People have been impoverished. There is excruciating hardship. Who are the lawyers for those people? As we speak, people's life savings, people's investments are at risk. We have heard the TUC. We have heard the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association. We have heard NAGRAT. We have heard TEWU. We have heard the Ghana Medical Association. Who speaks for them? We are public servants. They give us a mandate. They gave the finance minister a mandate to manage this economy well, to put this economy in a good place, so that their life savings, their investments, the work of struggling Ghanaians, of organized labor, business owners who are closing their businesses, some of whom are relocating to Ivory Coast, Togo, and elsewhere. Who speaks for them? Who are their lawyers? So this vote of censure issue, Mr. Speaker, must not be narrowed to mere legal technicalities. Human lives are at stake. Livelihoods are at stake. Businesses are at stake. Millions of Ghanaians, households, are living under excruciating pain because of the bad policies, the mismanagement, the incompetence of this Honorable Finance Minister, who should have left office more than 2 years ago, who actually has no business remaining in office after all the harm, all the havoc, all the pain, all the destruction that he has caused. Mr. Speaker, I make two preliminary observations before I speak to the grounds upon which I shall focus. The first preliminary observation is that the Honorable Minister appeared before us at the ad-hoc committee and offered a very convoluted apology. He said he was truly sorry. And yet he proceeds to blame everybody else apart from himself So I ask, what was he sorry about? Is that really an apology? Because if you've done nothing wrong, if we are where we are, not because of your policies, but because of so-called exogenous factors, why are you then apologizing? He blames Russia, he blames COVID, blames everybody, apart from he himself, who told the Ghanaian people that they were better managers of the economy. I'm surprised that today the respected Attorney General doesn't want to hear the use of the word incompetence. Who are those who made the word incompetence so famous and popular in this country? Today they don't want to hear that word. Today they don't want to hear incompetence. Mr. Speaker, the second preliminary observation I make before I speak to the grounds upon which I intend to proceed relates to a significant development at the committee. Mr. Speaker, I believe that President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has something very vital to learn from his cousin, the finance minister. The finance minister appeared before us on day one of our hearing with his lawyer, Gabi Ochredaku. When he came the second day, the third day when he appeared before us, he had quickly changed him. He saw that the way things were, how turbulent it was, how bumpy it was. That was not the kind of counsel he needs. So he quickly changed him and brought lawyer Ado Etua and lawyer Jacob Akwa-Sampson. President Akufo-Addo should learn from his cousin, the finance minister, and change the finance minister. Just as he changed his lawyers when he saw that the legal team led by Gabi Ochredaku on day one was a disaster. He quickly changed it because he knows his position is at stake. Now we are talking about lives. We are talking about livelihoods. We are talking about businesses. We are talking about people's pensions, people's life savings. And you don't want to learn from your cousin, the finance minister, who has showed you the way how to change people who are not performing. Mr. Speaker, I now want to proceed on the National Cathedral. The claim by the Honorable Minister for Finance that he used the contingency vote, Mr. Speaker, it will go down in our annals, in the records of this House, as the most ridiculous defense ever mounted. Contingency vote. Mr. Speaker, if you read our report, it is clear at page 11 of our report, paragraph 44, that the finance minister said that he relied on the contingency vote this House approved in the 2019 budget. Mr. Speaker, when you check the 2019 budget, page 210, what was approved by this House is 204,770,630. 204 million. The minister's own submission to us, when we asked for details, initially he was evasive. We wrote to him that he must let us know the total amount released on the National Cathedral so far. Mr. Speaker, when you put it together, it's 339 million Ghana cedis. So even if this finance minister decides to hide under the ridiculous explanation of contingency, we all know what contingency means. Contingency is something unforeseen, something that you didn't plan for.
Not a cathedral you have planned for with
a cathedral who you cut short, the president cut short March 7, 2017. You wrote letters to property owners. I have a copy here, May 30th, 2018, asking them to prepare to vacate and that their buildings were going to be demolished since May 2018. Then, suddenly, you didn't know that this was a project you were going to implement. It became an unforeseen commitment, and you are using contingency. We insist, Mr. Speaker, that even if you want to hide under the ridiculous afterthought of contingency, it cannot hold, and this House will not buy it. This side of the House will not be swayed and deceived by this grand deception. Mr. Speaker, what is also worrying is that these 339 million Ghana cedis, all of these withdrawals, Mr. Speaker, you will be shocked when you go to the site, Mr. Speaker. We are also raising issues of accountability, issues of transparency. 339 million, Mr. Speaker. This is the latest drone footage from the site. 339 million. This is what. 339 million. I asked the Honorable Kenneth Frietta if Data Bank has 339 million. Is this what we'll get for it? Is this what he will use it for? Some pits that look like a Galamsey site, Mr. Speaker. I also have here, Mr. Speaker, a letter from the contractors who have asked their workers to leave site since March 14, 2022, that they are not receiving funds for lack of funds. I'll tender it, Mr. Speaker. March 14. So work has actually been abandoned for lack of payment. So where did the money go? The 339 million, where did it go? Mr. Speaker, let the finance minister be reminded that in the Bible, in 1 Chronicles 28, verse 3, David was stopped by the Lord for building a temple for him. David was stopped. This is the kind of conduct that the Lord eschews. He abhors. He will not, such conduct doesn't glorify him. And we say we are building a temple where we will go to confess our sins for blessings to come upon the Lord on the basis of deception. Mr. Speaker, in any case, if the Honorable Finance Minister believes in his own contingency argument, why is it that in the current budget, the latest budget, the 2023 budget, he has, when we caught him, he has hurriedly run away from contingency. At page 197, he has now done the right thing. Allocated National Cathedral under item 19, Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, 80 million Ghana cedis. Page 197. Why didn't you hide it under contingency for 2023 after you have been caught, when you have been exposed? So, Mr. Speaker, I am surprised that our colleagues will say that our grounds don't have basis. Ghanaians have followed, they have observed. We have a finance minister who breaches the Constitution, Article 252. District Assembly fund allocations. He violates it. There's a Supreme Court decision. He violates it with impunity. PIAC has reported that instead of complying with the 5% rule, he is doing only 1.74%. The Auditor General is also saying that our oil receipt, 1.3 billion cedis, cannot be found. The Controller and Accountant General disagrees with the Finance Minister on his accounting. 1.3 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, I contend that we are where we are because of the bad leadership, the incompetence, the ineptitude, the cluelessness of this finance minister, and he must leave now. And I call on our colleagues to join us to kick him out. And President Akufo-Addo, learn from your cousin on how he quickly changed his legal team. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, we now give opportunity to the minister responsible for finance to be heard in defense.
Right, Honorable Speaker, let me first thank you and members of this Honorable House for the opportunity to contribute to this debate. The grounds and allegations that have been brought against me in this historic censure. Mr. Speaker, these allegations by the minority side, excluding a few of them, I humbly say that I have done nothing amiss. With them, Mr. Speaker, this censure has done some good in advancing our democracy, as we would hope that in future, such censures will have more thoroughness, will be less politically motivated. Mr. Speaker, the allegations are what they say. And I have really very little more to answer after all the answers that I gave at the committee meeting. For I tell you, Mr. Speaker, that even if I said I am innocent, they will not believe me. And if I ask for truth and proof, they will not be able to answer that. I have committed no crime. Mr. Speaker, let me just remind us, as we talk about the issue of recklessness, of mismanagement, of conflict of interest, and also remind ourselves of our COVID experience, of our Ukraine war, and Mr. Speaker, ask ourselves the lack of recklessness, the mismanagement, and the lack of these events. I'll ask my colleague who used to be at the ministry, what happened in 2015 for them to run to the IMF? No recklessness, no mismanagement, no COVID, no Ukraine war. And Mr. Speaker, President Akufo-Addo's government had to then come and bail them out. And we did so successfully. Mr. Speaker, for the loud and urgent voices seem to have prevailed, but the shouts of censor and censor, I believe, Mr. Speaker, shall forever ring in the ears of those who signed the censure, and their conscience and their souls. Censure will ring as crucify, crucify in their minds. And they, Mr. Speaker, I believe, have been sifted. This then is not a very good hour, and it's truly an hour of darkness. Mr. Speaker, in this very country, we have voted for PDAs.
Honorable Minister.
And we saw where it took us.
Honorable Minister, just a minute. Resume your seat. Yes, Honorable Edward Bawa. Please, Minister, you may sit. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The essence of the minister talking to us is for us to hear. We can hardly hear what he's saying. And we want to believe that he wants to make a case. We want to believe that he wants to make a case for us to know that we don't have to vote him out of office. He's reading from a script, and we cannot even hear what he's saying.
Honorable Edward Bawa, you have made a good point, but If you can't hear, how do you know he's reading?
Mr. Speaker, his face is buried in the paper. Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
he was fully buried in the paper. You could see it. His face that he was reading, not even getting up to have eye contact with us. Because he was not too sure if he raises his head, he would know the line again. So he was just reading. And we saw that, but I don't have a problem with that. I want to hear what he's reading so that I can make an informed decision. That's all that I'm asking of.
Honorable members, sometimes you see my head down and I'm speaking. I am not reading. If the point is that you are not hearing him, that I will take on board. But the next one that he is reading, when you are not even hearing him, is what is baffling me. Honorable Minister, is a defense. The people want to hear you. The other part, I haven't admitted it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank the Honorable Bauer for that. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Bauer, essentially what I said was that without COVID and without the Ukraine war and without recklessness and without mismanagement and without conflict of interest, you took us to the IMF. So my honorable colleague who was in the ministry should explain to us how with such clarity, with no exogenous factors, you were able to take us to the IMF. And Mr. Speaker, Akufo-Addo's government then came and bailed them out. Mr. Speaker, the loud and urgent voices seem to be prevailing. And the yells and shouts of censure shall forever in my mind ring in their ears and conscience and souls as crucify for no reason. Mr. Speaker, they have been sifted like wheat. This day, Mr. Speaker, I believe is a sad hour when darkness from some of our own citizens seem to want to reign. But Mr. Speaker, in this very country is where we have had PDAs by the Nkrumah regime, citizens vetting committees by the Rawlings regime. We shall not, Mr. Speaker, encourage such discussions. Mr. Speaker, the Lord is gracious and compassionate. Mr. Speaker, the Lord is slow to anger and rich in love. Mr. Speaker, it is such love that we must show to those who have brought us here. The Lord has given Ghanaians a spirit of courage, love, and self-discipline. And we must pray for the Holy Spirit to strengthen us to love all of our neighbors. Mr. Speaker, in the budget that I read, we called it the Nkabom budget. And that is what we need going forward. Mr. Speaker, my defense, and I thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Speaker. God bless us and bless our homeland, Ghana. Thank you.
Honorable members, it's now the turn of the minority leader.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the adoption of the report of the Censorship Committee and to ask this House to stand strong and firm together in bidding goodbye to the Honorable Minister for Finance and bidding him farewell that at least 6 years as Minister of Finance, he's done his part. He's done his part. He started well in 2017-18 and started dipping with poor performance into 2019 and 2020. And we have a responsibility as representatives of the people to hold him accountable. Mr. Speaker, let me start with the Honorable Minister for Lands and Forestry, Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, the member for Damongu, to emphasize. And Mr. Speaker, he argued that censorship motions are rarely used, and referred to the United States and the United Kingdom, and reminded us when censor motion was used in the United Kingdom. For every country and its democracy, there must be a beginning. This is our beginning. And it is our beginning to invoke Article 82. But I tie that to that of the learned Attorney General when he says that due process have not been respected. Due process have not been respected. Yet, the Speaker gave you the opportunity to speak in defense of a colleague minister. The Speaker has given the Minister for Finance an opportunity to defend himself at committee and even at plenary. You must be thankful to the openness of the Speaker and this House. So to say that due process have not been respected, Mr. Speaker, you admitted this motion because it is a competent motion. A motion, due process, Attorney General, who take you through due process. And be reminded that this House, the Parliament of Ghana, so established under Article 93 of this Constitution, is not a quasi-judicial body. And it is not, even as you extended to this committee with your Nemo Das rule, it is not the committee of the Honorable K.T. Hammer and Dr. Ayeni is not an adjudicating committee. Mr. Speaker, this House, the Parliament of Ghana, is not the judicial organ of Ghana. It is vested with the powers so imposed on it under Article 93. And Mr. Speaker, I quote for the purpose of the record. It reads, "There shall be a Parliament of Ghana, which shall consist of the number." But it says, "Subject to the provisions of this Constitution, the legislative power of Ghana shall be vested in Parliament and shall be exercised in accordance with this Constitution." That is why, Mr. Speaker, in admitting this motion, you are talking, Attorney General, you are talking about due process. And when it comes to matters of this nature, you are not expected to be a partisan minister. You are the learned Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana. Not partisan. You are the learned Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana. And you must stick to the fidelity of the Constitution, the fidelity of the laws of Ghana. May I refer you to Article 82 of the Constitution? When you talk about due process, Mr. Speaker, due process, yes, due process reads, Parliament may by a resolution supported by the votes of not less than 2/3 of all the members of Parliament. 82. So very soon, Mr. Speaker, Parliament will be voting to determine whether we have 2/3 or not. Due process. 2. A motion for the resolution referred to in clause 1 of this article shall not be moved in Parliament unless 7 days notice has been given. Satisfied. The notice for the motion has been signed by not less than 1/3 of the members of parliament. Satisfied. Due process. The motion shall be debated in parliament within 14 days. Due process. We are continuing to conclude it. The Minister for Finance has appeared to defend himself, Mr. Speaker, and I quote, the motion shall be debated in parliament within 5 days. And 824 says, a Minister of State, in respect of whom a vote of censure is debated under clause 3 of this article, is entitled during the debate to be heard. Due process. So, Attorney General, to say that these parliaments have not complied with the minimum requirements of the Constitution is neither here nor there. May I walk you further? May I walk you further to Article 23? You defended yourself and even quoted the Supreme Court ruling. Here we come, and here I read. Article 23 reads, Mr. Speaker, administrative bodies and administrative officials. Mr. Speaker, you are members of parliament. Are you administrative officials? Mr. Speaker says, shall act fairly and reasonably and comply with the requirements imposed on them by law, and persons aggrieved by the exercise of such acts and decisions shall have the right to seek redress before a court or other tribunal, referring to what you call the ombudsman or Shraj for our purpose in Ghana, that even this parliament can appoint the ombudsman. How dare the Attorney General compare Shraj to the Parliament of Ghana? That is your understanding of Article 23 of the Constitution. How can you reduce this co-equal organ of states, the co-equal organ of states, the Parliament of Ghana, to an administrative institution? Mr. Speaker, come again. Then, Mr. Speaker, now, to paraphrase the Minister for Finance, he himself said that this motion have done this country's democracy some good. I couldn't agree more with you, because this motion, Mr. Speaker, will let ministers of President Nana Addo Dankwa sit up and know that there is a watchman called the Parliament of Ghana, that if they are betraying the public trust, are not living to the expectations of the public, they will be held accountable by this august house. That is the good this motion is doing. And then to you aspiring ministers under John Mahama, the same rule will apply to you tomorrow if you so do. So don't think that it's applicable only to them. Tomorrow, when you do assume roles as ministers, this house will hold you accountable. Mr. Speaker, it has facilitated transparency and openness. At least the minister have now provided 80 million for cathedral. He didn't do so in the previous budget, at least. But Mr. Speaker, since they are tendering matters in evidence, I will tender this in evidence. Mr. Speaker, with the court that an independent engineers must evaluate how much money have been spent on the cathedral and how much work have been done against the letter from contractors, which I will also tender in that they have not been paid, so that a report will be submitted to this house. So, Mr. Speaker, I will tender that in evidence.
Yes, Minority Leader.
I tendered in
just a minute.
The pictorial view.
Minority Leader, just a minute. Yes, Deputy Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Minority Leader has tendered a picture. Mr. Speaker, which picture we don't know the source. Mr. Speaker, and he's urging on you to accept this as evidence of some work being done somewhere. And Mr. Speaker, he is now again saying that engineers should go and evaluate. Mr. Speaker, already in an earlier submission, an honorable member had contended that the cost does not in any way match the so-called work done. That was his argument. Now today, he is now misleading this House by saying that we should now go and call engineers when he wants members to take a decision on a matter. Mr. Speaker, we cannot accept this. And Mr. Speaker, I rely on the rules of this House to make this argument. Mr. Speaker, let's look at Order 30. Mr. Speaker, Order 30D.
Please, quote the order. Quote the order. Quote the order you are referring to.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I'm proceeding.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I am quoting, but you are urging me to quote. Mr. Speaker, I'm doing exactly that. That's exactly what I'm going to do, and you are intimidating me. I am able to quote, and I'm there. So allow me to finish. Mr. Speaker, today it looks I'm not in your good books. Because I'm quoting, you are saying I should quote. I am quoting, you say I should quote. I am going to do that. I am capable of quoting. You know that I'm not in your good books today, Mr. Speaker. I'm not a happy man. Let me quote.
Honorable Deputy Majority Leader.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to quote.
When you started, you were debating. And so I wanted to draw your attention to the fact that you stood on a point of order. Then you said, order, so and so. Then I said, quote the order. You see, please.
We are all your children, but this morning, Mr. Speaker, this morning, your attention has been so positive to this side. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to quote. Today we are all yours, but today they seem to be more happy. Mr. Speaker, they are your favorite children this morning. It's not that we accept children. We are not. We are all your children.
Honorable Deputy Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
On many occasions, I said the same thing of you. I don't know why today you are trying to create an impression that some people are my children, but you are not. But everybody in this House is aware that you are one of the most favored child in the family.
Mr. Speaker, not today. Not today. Today is the opposite.
But you must know that every day is not Sunday. You may continue.
Mr. Speaker, it is offensive to present to Parliament frivolous, false, scandalous, groundless, or fabricated documents or such allegations in a petition. Mr. Speaker, I am coming from the angle of groundless. I rely on the provision groundless. Mr. Speaker, the honorable minority leader knows how to prepare a document for the purpose of evidence. He knows what to do when he wants to get a document for our record. Mr. Speaker, I contend that that paper, which we have not seen, which Mr. Speaker has not seen, which has supposedly been laid, cannot, Mr. Speaker, cannot be said to be a proper document for the purpose of evidence. It is not. And it's very misleading, Mr. Speaker, a picture that we don't know the source. Mr. Speaker, if you may give me a copy, let me show it to you. Mr. Speaker, clerk at table, bring it. Mr. Speaker, with your leave, the clerk at table may let me have it to make my demonstration. Show me.
Yes, honorable, please. You may resume your seat. Well, honorable members, this is not a point of order. We haven't also reached the stage where we evaluate the evidence and depend on what weight you place on evidence. That is the issue is pressing. So the honorable minority leader may continue with his submissions.
Well, Speaker, so I'm further tendering in notice, I'm further tendering in contractors who have not been paid at the cathedral, so that independent engineers can do an assessment. Having spent 339 million, the Ghanaian people deserve to know and to have value for money. We'll be interested in ascertaining that. Mr. Speaker, I have respect for the Minister for Lands, so I'll just end here with him. When you sought to debate questioning the relevance of a censorship motion, then you may as well have told the framers of the Constitution that Article 82 was unnecessary and ought not to have been part of the 1992 Constitution. But even that, the President of the Republic, whom you said, Nana Addo Dankwa, assented to what I call the Fiscal Responsibility Act of 2018, Act 982. And Mr. Speaker, in the Fiscal Responsibility Act, Section 4, it reads, and I quote, head note, vote of censure. Parliament may, in accordance with Article 82 of the Constitution, pass a vote of censure on the minister, where the minister breaches Section 2 by more than 1 percentage point. The Honorable Atufonso referred to it. So, Minister, we are competent within the Constitution, competent within the Fiscal Responsibility Act, and competent within the exercise of oversight. And we are doing so with respect to the rule of law. Mr. Speaker, when the Minister for Finance appeared before the committee, he responded to some of the issues, some satisfactorily, some unsatisfactorily, some very disappointedly. We are disappointed in his responses. For instance, the argument about money being put in an offshore account, nobody on this side have alleged it to your person. Nobody. We can't do that. We respect your person, but nobody alleges that you set up an offshore account for yourself. We allege that monies that ought to be in the Petroleum Holding Fund, to which you have been given authority under the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, Act 815, imposes the obligation on you. So to say that you borrowed GMPC $164 million to do what? Did that borrowing come before this House? No, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, may I with respect again refer you to Article 181. No, I have the script. Article 181. Mr. Speaker, Article 181 states, 1811, Parliament may by a resolution supported by the votes of a majority of all the members of Parliament, Mr. Speaker, the emphasis is mine, authorize the government to enter into an agreement for the granting of a loan out of a public fund or a public account. Where did you get the mandate and authority to borrow GMPC, that money, without parliamentary approval? That is the question we raise. Germaine, relevant. And Mr. Speaker, maybe I should paraphrase the minister's oath when he swore his oath of office as minister. So may I refer you to the Constitution and to the oath section. Oath of a cabinet minister. It reads that he shall uphold and defend the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana. That Constitution provided him that when he wants to borrow, he must come to this august House. He failed to do so. That is a breach of law and a breach of the Constitution, to which we hold him accountable. Then, learned Attorney General, I also heard you quote Article 2 of the 1992 Constitution. I heard you well, and I re-quote it for you. You stated, in defense of your position, that where in this Constitution any other law found to be inconsistent with any provision of this Constitution. So when Parliament legislates on a law, I say when Parliament legislates on a law like a bill, and that bill is repugnant to this Constitution, it will be declared null and void. Are you suggesting that we do not have the authority to subject the minister to a vote of censure? Yes, we do, and that is what we are exercising. Mr. Speaker, my joy is in that This gallant minority, we are aware of our limitations. The Ghanaian people didn't give us an overwhelming or absolute majority. Neither did they give our friends opposite. But Mr. Speaker, our heart was warmed when the majority leader, in addressing a press conference with some 93 members of parliament from his back, 98, assured us of their cooperation. Where is your cooperation? We need it today. We do not need your cooperation any other day than today. That you must cooperate with us. And you must cooperate fundamentally, Mr. Speaker, for one reason. That you reflect the disappointment of the Ghanaian people. You share their hardships. You share businesses which are collapsing. And you share the fact that we must hold the Honorable Minister for Finance responsible for that. Mr. Speaker, when the Minister was responding, he said that not due to recklessness or mismanagement, not due to COVID, and not due to Ukraine. In 2003, when the MPP government went to IMF, was it because of those factors? You are reminded that in 2003, there was an external credit facility with the IMF, led by the New Patriotic Party government. So stop behaving like you are angels when it comes to going to IMF for political credibility. You did so in 2003. Mr. Speaker, today, this animal called debt exchange. Where have any of you heard about debt exchange? That you manage an economy to the extent that you are seeking to help save the economy with a debt exchange, which is threatening, the financial health of the economy and the health of the financial industry in our country. I've just reviewed a report that four banks, local, 4 banks, foreign, cannot just do with your debt exchange initiative.
Honorable Minority Leader, your time is up.
In 1 minute, Mr. Speaker. 1 minute. I have to speak for these banks. They are holding 83.9% in debt instruments. 4 foreign banks, 4 local banks, they are near collapse because of the failure of your policy, because of your incompetence. You have overborrowed from 120 billion to 450 billion. Under NDC, we never borrowed that much, but at least we deliver. Mr. Speaker, on this note, my colleagues who are brave enough and courageous enough, stand with us to vote, and vote to bid the minister farewell. I'll be watching what the majority leader will say, whether he will be a man, or today, he will change into Mr. Speaker, so I beg to further urge members that let's pass a vote of censure. In the House of Commons, it's interchangeably used with vote of no confidence. What we have done, I'm sure he himself in his sleep and his conscience know that at least some of the issues we have raised, we are right. And that we have done it for the good of the Ghanaian people. In his conscience, he knows. So, Mr. Speaker, join us to bid him farewell. That he doesn't deserve to implement his unacceptable debt exchange program, which is threatening pensions, threatening financial institutions, threatening jobs. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, 5 minutes suspension.
The minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, has just wrapped up the debate on the side of the minority. He will be the last person to speak on the minority bench as regards to why Ken Ofori-Atta, the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, must go. The Speaker of Parliament has just taken a 5-minute break. When he returns, it will be the turn of the majority leader, Osei Mensah Bonsu, who will be making the position that Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta should stay. And you see there on the floor, the minority MPs going towards the majority leader and asking him to do what is right according to them and fight for the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to be removed from office. The Finance Minister is also on the floor. He's currently sitting right by the National Security Minister, Albert Kandapar. A number of key ministers appearing in the House today to offer support to Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, who has been under fire for several months now, with even members from his own party demanding that he is sacked from office. This is the day that a vote may ultimately happen to remove him. But you heard the very instructive some points that were raised by the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, questioning the constitutional legitimacy of the entire process and whether or not due process had been followed in the way the committee did its work and whether they had the locus at all to be inquiring into the matters they sought to inquire into in terms of the adducing of documents and other issues that went before the committee. So that is what the Attorney General did. But as will be expected, when the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, took the stage, he sought to respond directly to the Attorney General to say that what they have done by this process was to constitutionally follow the dictates of the law and that they have not breached any law so far. So the minority leader, Haruna Idrisu, has just concluded the debate from his side. But 5 minutes later, when the House returned from the break, we'll be hearing from the majority leader. He will ultimately close this entire debate. And then what will happen then will be the vote on the committee's report. A vote will be taken to adopt the committee report. I mean, I look at the numbers in the House, and I'm tempted to say the committee's report will be adopted because the majority side, even if they are so minded, are not enough compared to the NDC MPs who are in the House today. So it's been a full day in Parliament. It's been several hours of debates on Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. We also heard there from a member of the committee, Samuel Okujeto-Ablakwa, who argued by showing a picture of the site of the National Cathedral construction to say that the minister, despite sinking in so much money, has failed to do what is right, and that the construction that has happened so far does not, in terms of the amount of money that has spent so far, I mean, really look as though the state has gotten value for money. So, very clear. Let me run you by some of the key points that has been going on. We first heard from the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, who offered a defense for his decision to refer the censure motion to the ad hoc committee, because we've heard from the public some key lawyers, including Professor Henry Kwesi Prempeh, who have said that this process is being reduced to a legal process and that it is indeed not one, and that whatever should have happened on the floor. So he offered that kind of defense. We also heard from K.T. Hammond. He is co-chair of the committee. He moved the motion for the adoption of the committee report. He did not go so much into the substance. He pleaded that the Hansa department captures in whole that report. And then we heard from Dr. Dominic Ahene. He is co-chair of the committee. He sort of laid ground for what was to be expected. He said that in his estimation, that the committee had found that the minister engaged in excess expenditure. We know that that is not in the committee's report, and indeed, you heard that from K.T. Hammond, putting it to him that he's doing something that is not in the report. So the Speaker of Parliament is back. The House is expected to continue. Like I told you, we'll be hearing from Majority Leader Osei Mensah Bonsu in terms of the censure motion. So the Speaker of Parliament is just coming in, and what we expect the Majority Leader to do will be to continue on the defense that have been filed by the majority side in terms of why they believe that Ken Ofori-Atta should remain in office. We expect that after this debate is concluded and a vote is taken, the EC booths and other things will come into the House, a vote will be taken finally, and then a decision will be taken on Ken Ofori-Atta. So the Speaker of Parliament is just taking his seat and we expect him to continue governing the House to order. What is going to happen now is that the majority leader, I'll say Chairman Sabonso, will conclude debate on the side of the majority. A question will be put on the motion, and then finally, a decision in terms of voting, actual voting, will then happen. So this is still our live coverage of proceedings here in Parliament. The censure motion hearings. Kenneth Oriata is at the center of all of it, and the Speaker of Parliament is back. So I'll hand you over back to the floor, where the Speaker of Parliament will make some comments before the majority leader, or say Chairman Sabonso, is expected to close the debate.
We will now listen to the majority leader, after which the question will be put and the vote will be taken. So please, majority leader, it's your turn.
Speaker.
Yes, majority leader.
Speaker, in rising to comment on the motion before us, I first want to state strongly that I have never stated in this House that even though I'm not a lawyer, I know better, or that I'm much more knowledgeable in law than the lawyers in this House. So, Speaker, you know that I have never made this statement on the floor of the House. The Speaker, the greatest respect, you do know that I don't bear that trait of arrogance. And I'll plead with you, with the greatest respect, to set the record straight for me. I have never said so on this floor. The Speaker, my colleagues came under Article 82. The motion that was admitted by your good self bore the name of the Honorable Muntaka and 128 others. That was a motion that was advertised on 25th of October, and it appeared on the order paper on the 27th of October. Later on, Mr. Speaker, we came to see another motion in the name of the Honorable Haruna Idrusu, Muntaka, Mohammed, and 127 others. Is it the same motion that we are debating today? Mr. Speaker, we need to be careful. And you yourself, in guiding us, you have related to the issue that this is a novel. A novel, indeed, it is. But we must be on a straight path. The Speaker, Article 82 provides for a Minister of State, in respect of whom a vote of censure is debated, to be entitled during the debate to be heard his defense. Today, I'm happy that my colleagues on the other side are happy to join the fray, that indeed the minister must be given the opportunity to be heard. On the day when they set this in motion, the Speaker, they were reluctant and they were pleading that it should not be referred to a committee. Mr. Speaker, today, I think they have had a road to Damascus experience, and they now say that they buy into this. Yes, Parliament is evolving, and we'll get there. Mr. Speaker, Article 14(1) of the Constitution provides for every person to be entitled to his personal liberty, and no person shall be deprived of his personal liberty. The right to be heard is a fundamental human right, and the Constitution in Article 12. Mr. Speaker, and you have ruled that the committee that you referred this matter to is really a quasi-judiciary one, and is supposed to inquire into the matter. As such, it's been your ruling. The minority leader and others have challenged this. If they are challenging the ruling of the Speaker, they know what to do. It must come properly, not through the back door. Mr. Speaker, as I was saying, the Constitution in Article 12 provides, and Mr. Speaker, with the greatest respect, I want to quote, when people want to limit the due process only to the courts. Mr. Speaker, the freedoms enshrined in this Constitution, Article 12(1) provides, the fundamental human rights and freedoms enshrined in this chapter shall be respected and upheld by the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, due process is taken in whole, not in bits and pieces. Indeed. It's not taken in bits and pieces. Due process is holistic. So when a matter goes before a committee, you are supposed to submit yourself to due process. And that is why the Attorney General cited that if you are part of the group that is making that allegation against a finance minister, you cannot turn around to be a judge in your own court. That is it. And I thought that you should appreciate the point that was made by the Attorney General. Mr. Speaker, talk to your board. Mr. Speaker, the motion and the matters mentioned in them came to refer to the ad hoc committee co-chaired by the Honorable Katie Amont and the Honorable Dr. Ayine. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Dr. Ayine, the co-chair of the committee, was relating to the difficulty that they had because of the co-chairship. And, Mr. Speaker, where this co-chairship is even coming from, I don't even comprehend. Let's be cautious about that. Yes, it's a committee that was established by us. Maybe one will relate to the members that we had an 8-member committee, hence this novelty of co-chairing. But we should be careful. And indeed, even the committee that was formed to advise this House on the appointment of an auditor to audit the Auditor General, it was also an even-numbered committee. It came to be chaired by the Honorable Deputy Minority Leader. There was no co-chairship there. So why this? We should be careful in order not to run ourselves into some kind of undefined imbroglio. It will not help this House. Mr. Speaker, Article 82(3), and the Deputy Majority Leader was relating to that when he said that the import of Article 82(3), we should be careful whether what you are doing is not bad under Article 82(3). And Mr. Speaker, you sought for further and better clarification. There's the 14-day rule, that the motion shall be debated in Parliament within 14 days after the receipt by the Speaker of the notice for the motion. Mr. Speaker, you sought further and better particulars. I would want to suggest to us, this is of the same order. The imperatives of Article 82(3) is of the same order as Article 1125. And 1125 provides the Speaker, with the greatest respect, that wherever a vacancy occurs in Parliament, the Clerk to Parliament shall notify the Electoral Commission in writing within 7 days after the vacancy occurred, and the by-election shall be held within 30 days after the vacancy occurred. It cannot be said that the processes were initiated within 30 days. Of course, it's been amended, as the case may be if it's attributable to death, to 60 days. But it cannot be said that the processes of elections are initiated within 60 days, and so it can go beyond 60 days. Mr. Speaker, I'm suggesting to us that the imperatives of Article 82(3) is of the same order as Article 1125. We must operate within the law. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Majority Leader, this point you are raising is challenging my ruling. You are challenging my ruling. But you know, that even though it's stated within 30 days, if on the 30th day the results are equal, the elections continue. True or false?
Mr. Speaker,
you see,
Mr. Speaker, with the greatest respect,
please,
you are mixing up.
I'm drawing your attention to it so that you move away from challenging my ruling. You can go on now. Within doesn't necessarily mean that it must be debated and decided within. For some good reason, it could go beyond the days specified. That is practice. Please, let's go on.
I'm going on, Mr. Speaker. The elections would have been conducted within the 14 days.
So the debate started within the 14 days.
Mr. Speaker, it was not a debate. The motion, it was not a debate. There's a world of distinction between the motion and the debate.
Honorable,
but I move on.
Please, when you move a motion and is seconded, go to the standing orders. What does it constitute? Is there in our standing orders? That is why usually when you are raising preliminary objection, I make sure that it's raised before the motion is seconded. If not, after it's seconded, it's debate. That is it. It's there in the standing orders. You may continue.
Mr. Speaker, I've been speaking to the Constitution, and between the Constitution and our standing orders, the Constitution is superior. Mr. Speaker, Article 69(7) relates...
The man just stated now that he has never stated anywhere that even though he's not a lawyer, he knows the law more than lawyers. What is he confirming? Please, yes, I do all this not because I'm debating you. We are doing this because we need to carry the public along. They need to understand how Parliament works. That's why sometimes I'm compelled to say some of these things. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm not surprised, but you may be surprised. Mr. Speaker, you remember that day I asked you for guidance and ruling on this Article 82, 14-day duration. And I told you that I know the people we are dealing with. Mr. Speaker, here we are.
Actually, if I heard you say what you said, I would have ruled you out of order. And so you are completely out of order. Yes, please. Majority Leader.
Yes, Speaker, thank you. I thought that he knows that he's dealing with people who are very scrutinous and very diligent with the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, Article 69(7) relating to the impeachment in respect of presidents provides for the president to be heard either by himself or through his elected lawyer. Article 95(2)(d), which relates to speakers having to vacate their office, does not bear the construction of they having to be heard. That is Article 95(2)(d). However, our own standing orders is the one that you have used to expand the remit of Article 95(2)(d). That is why I found it strange that whereas the Constitution provides that the minister must be heard, people were kicking against it, that he must be heard only on the floor. And even if he elects to be heard through his lawyer, the lawyer will not have any space. But today, as I've said, we have converted souls, so we will live with them. Mr. Speaker, the people know that Article 115 provides that Parliament and members of Parliament have freedom of speech, and the freedom that we have in discussing matters cannot be impeached in any place outside this house, including the courts. So you come here, descend on a minister or whoever, and then you don't want to create space for the person to be heard. But we have moved beyond that. Today, Mr. Speaker, what we have before us, the minority leader kept saying that the minister admitted that he has borrowed the GMPC some amount. The minister has never admitted anywhere that he has borrowed the GMPC money. He has never admitted. He said he has borrowed GMPC money. And he said the minister has admitted to it. The minister has never admitted anywhere that he has borrowed GMPC money. I'm quoting the minority leader. That is there. Mr. Speaker, again, matters. He says that the conduct breaches the Constitution. And the Attorney General related to this, and that is why the Attorney General quoted for us Article 2 of the Constitution, which provides that a person who alleges an enactment or anything contained in or done under the authority of that or any other enactment or any act or omission or any person is inconsistent with or in contravention of a provision of this Constitution may bring an action in the Supreme Court for a declaration to that effect. Mr. Speaker, what it means is that if you are alleging that what he has done is in breach of the Constitution, what is required of you? Take the matter to the Supreme Court for declaration. That is what it means. You cannot try him here that he has breached the Constitution and without any declaration from the Supreme Court, tie him like a goat and go take him to the slaughterhouse. Mr. Speaker, where from this? Mr. Speaker, having listened to my colleagues, many of them were addressing issues that are very extraneous to the charges that they themselves preferred against the minister. Some of them bordering on criminality. This indeed is our house. But as I quoted for you under Article 12, you are expected to uphold the imperatives of the Constitution. You cannot say that this is your house and you want to do whatever you like. I'm happy you are now shouting, no, no, no. Yanabo, my dearest friend, Roxanne, I'm happy that you are shouting, no, no, no. Let's not do anything that will be reckless. Mr. Speaker, the AG, the Attorney General, only came to proffer his professional advice. He did not come to defend the Minister for Finance. Mr. Speaker, as I said, the Supreme Court, in a ruling, which the Attorney General quoted to us, has not been disputed by the minority leader. When in the case of Awuni versus West African Examination Council, that is not disputed. And the minority leader spiritedly ran away from the issue that was raised by the Attorney General. Mr. Speaker, now I have some picture that has been tabled by the minority leader. Mr. Speaker, strangely, this picture bears no date. So it bears no date. Whether it was taken maybe a week after the construction began, nobody knows. Mr. Speaker, how can such a document be entertained in this house? You cannot. This house does not rest on your say so. We want unimpeachable evidence. This one, bearing no date. I want to table it here. This is a much more serious house. It's a much more serious house. Mr. Speaker, we should not recline with the greatest respect to pedestrianism. Please. Mr. Speaker, I'm taking a cue from the Honorable John. He said I should go slowly. I will go slowly. But Mr. Speaker, these are matters of serious concern, of grave concern. The matters raised against the finance minister, Mr. Speaker, are really serious matters. One, despicable conflict of interest, ensuring that he directly benefits from Ghana's economic woes as his companies receive commissions and other unethical contractual advantage, particularly from Ghana's debt overhang. This is criminality. And you are not able to prove anything. Mr. Speaker, unconstitutional withdrawals from the Consolidated Fund in blatant contravention of Article 178 of the 1992 Constitution, supposedly, they are not even too sure, supposedly for the construction of the President's Cathedral. Mr. Speaker, really, they are reducing this to a joke. Mr. Speaker, illegal payment of oil revenues into offshore accounts in flagrant violation of Article 176 of the 1996 Constitution. Mr. Speaker, what are they afraid of? Yes, I recognize that I was speaking for 15 minutes, 57 seconds. The minority leader spoke for 18 minutes, 53 seconds. I was marking him. Mr. Speaker, why are they running away from their own shadows? Mr. Speaker, deliberate and dishonest.
Please, I'm in charge.
Thank you very much.
Be addressing me, not having a conversation with your friends opposite.
Except that when you intervene, Mr. Speaker, my time is still running. When you intervene, my time is still running.
Honorable Majority Leader, the Speaker cannot be said to be intervening. The Speaker doesn't intervene. No. That word can be used for a member of Parliament, not the Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, your ruling or whatever is in an intervention. It's an intervention. The value is the same. The value, when you speak,
read the standing orders and draw my attention to where it says that when the Speaker...
Mr. Speaker, you see.
You read the standing orders and then tell me where it says that when the Speaker comes in or stops a member, that means an intervention.
Mr. Speaker, I'll go on.
I stopped. It's here. I'm watching. Don't worry at all.
Mr. Speaker, the other one is deliberate and dishonest misreporting of economic data to Parliament. And the other day when I heard them, they were talking about differences in statistics reported in budget documents. Mr. Speaker, take any budget statement and you see that what is reported, like now, 2023 budget. If you come to the media review, the figures will be different. And that is deliberate misreporting. That's the understanding of some colleagues of ours. Mr. Speaker, I dare say that that is deliberate contrivance. Mr. Speaker, the others, alarming incompetence and so on, those are political statements. In any event, when we allege incompetence against the former president, John Dramani Mahama, it occasioned impeachment. The grotesque incompetence didn't occasion impeachment. This is political talk. Mr. Speaker, now having said all this, let me end on the note of the minority leader. The minority leader in London admitted that many of the allegations that they have packaged. Yes, you said, Mr. Speaker, he has not even listened to me. Mr. Speaker, he said, the finance minister knows that some of the issues that they have raised are true. They are right. You said some of the issues raised, the finance minister admits, are right. What it means is that some of them are not right. Some of them are untrue. Some of them are falsehoods. And you want us to vote. What's you? Mr. Speaker,
will never be part of
Mr. Speaker, and he didn't point out which ones are true and which ones are false.
Tell us.
And you want us to follow you on this misadventure.
Value of the shadow of death.
On this grotesque misadventure.
Value of the shadow.
Mr. Speaker, like Pontius Pilate,
we wash our hands.
We will wash our hands. We will wash our hands. We will wash our hands always. Shame has come. 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 We are washing our hands. We are washing our hands. Shame. 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 Shame.
Shame!
Honourable members, Honourable members, at the conclusion of the debate, based on Article 1044, Article 1044, which reads, where Parliament is considering a bill to amend the Constitution, or where the voting is in relation to the election or removal of any person under this Constitution, where Parliament is considering a bill to amend the Constitution, or where the voting is in relation to the election or removal of any person under this Constitution or under any other law, voting shall be in secret. That is the constitutional provision. We have had discussion on it, and some doubts have been created as to whether this is removal or not. But what is very clear by our standing orders, Order 108, is very clear. It says a motion for a vote of censure on a minister of state shall be moved in the following manner. And what is relevant here is B. The motion shall be debated in Parliament within 14 days of its receipt by Mr. Speaker, and shall be supported by the votes in secret ballot of not less than 2/3 of all the members of Parliament. And so I proceed to call for a secret ballot pursuant to Article 1044 and Order 10.
That said, my opinion is to advise the House. I had earlier on discussed my opinion with the Speaker. The Speaker had actually had 4 notice of my opinion. Indeed, he had a copy before. And his ruling that the proceedings were quasi-judicial essentially constitutes part of my opinion. In fact, that was my first observation, that the proceedings are quasi-judicial. And for that matter, the Honourable Member of Parliament for Bolga Kanga Central was named Dr. Ayini. Yes, former Dr. Ayini was totally wrong. And he was wrong. The Speaker showed that he was wrong. The Speaker agreed with my observation that indeed proceedings are quasi-judicial. If they are quasi-judicial, then it means they're supposed to be compliant with all the requirements of natural justice. Natural justice has 2 legs. Apart from the grant of a fair hearing, there's also the requirement for a person not to be a judge in his or her own course. So how can we be a proponent and then be a co-chair? The absurdity of that is there for all of us to see.
But do you feel that in the end there is fairness, looking at the process ever since it started and where we are?
How can the process be fair when the proponent is a co-chair? That's the kind of absurdity and incongruity I sought to bring to the attention of Parliament. And the Speaker actually did not comment on that. But I'm saying that the other aspect of my opinion, that the proceedings are quasi-judicial and they're supposed to be regulated by the rules of fair hearing and justice and due process, were upheld by the Speaker in his earlier ruling. I believe you took notice.
The issue about conventions being set in Parliament and the issue about precedents as well coming up, what measures will you take as the Attorney General just to cure that mischief? Because we may have a similar situation again. Would you consider heading to the Supreme Court for some finality or explanation to some of these matters?
I mean, I think that, yes, it's quite clear. Parliament is the master of its own procedure, but that procedure, it's an act for itself, must be subject to the Constitution. So Parliament cannot, under the guise of being a master of its own procedure, violate the Constitution at all. And I think this year we had occasion to fight some matters in the Supreme Court whereby Parliament or acts by Parliament were declared unconstitutional. So I think that the recourse is there for anybody to go to the Supreme Court. The
Speaker of Parliament talks about
the remedy is not for the Attorney General to prescribe a law for Parliament. That would be unconstitutional.
Speaker of Parliament talks about a vacuum in our laws, the fact that we don't have a procedure on how to deal specifically with the ministers of state. He's adopted an ad hoc measure. Do we need refined laws on that?
I think, again, it's subject to the determination by Parliament. And I think that I agree with the procedure adopted by the Speaker. And I said that originally. I indicated that, yes, it's a quasi-judicial proceeding. It's quasi-judicial proceeding. It implies that the rules of fair hearing ought to be adhered to. And that would necessarily imply that you give a person who is affected by the proceedings in question full notice of the allegations that the person is charged with, for particulars. You cannot hold me before court with no particulars at all. Even the court will require that you file a writ of summons, a statement of claim. The writ of summons will contain the broad allegations you make against the person. The statement of claim will contain the particulars in support of the allegation. And then after that, you deliver your written response, there's a reply, and then there's a date for hearing. I expect Parliament to do the same. You cannot hold a minister before a committee of Parliament and say, oh, I'm reading to you these grounds. So what are the grounds in support of? The grounds must be in support of something. And that's the point I made again in my opinion. There must be allegation, there must be grounds. And then there must be particulars in substantiation of the grounds. So everything for me was fundamentally flawed right from the beginning. And I think that if indeed they want to go by the procedure prescribed by the Speaker. It's appropriate. But then the committee itself ought to also adopt a further procedure of requiring that a notice will be given of the particulars in support of every allegation against the minister, and then the minister also...
Honorable, we're live on TV now. In the heat of the debate, your integrity was questioned. Of course, you hear the minority leader saying, well, you are the Minister of Justice, and so you must ensure that justice is upheld. Do you feel...
I think that we must be careful. The media, you're fond of, with all respect, destroying the nation with all these wild allegations. Attorney General's integrity is questioned when a minority that just says that you are Minister for Justice. Does it amount to the Attorney General's...
That's what I'm asking.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. In any case, we all know that Parliament is a house for debate, and the debate is done by groups of people on opposite sides. Definitely they'll be at each other's throats and all that. For justice, they don't necessarily think that I'm on the side of the majority, but that wasn't the case at all. The point is that I delivered a legal opinion. The soundness of the opinion is what must be interrogated, and indeed you cannot fault any part of the opinion that I gave. The first is that is a quasi-judicial proceeding, and that was upheld by the Speaker. Second is that you cannot be a judge in your own cause. Can you be a petitioner and at the same time a judge? It cannot be right. So how can Dr. Ayini be a proponent, sign as a proponent to the petition?
He's still a member of Parliament, you agree?
No, but that's wrong. That's why I told the Speaker that indeed it was wrong. I was not the one who constituted the committee. The Speaker in constituting the committee should have been mindful of that. You cannot constitute a committee and then make as a co-chair a person who is a proponent. And you saw today, he has admitted clearly that he's actually on the side of the...
Do you mean without admitting that the committee indeed was set up, we may have Dominic Ayine express his views just as an ordinary MP?
No, but see, so if the minority indeed wanted to act tactfully, if I were on the minority side, I would not be a proponent. Because once you're a proponent, on the face of it, you are on the side of the accusers. And you cannot be an accuser and a judge at the same time. Otherwise, you've been a judge in your own cause. That is totally untenable and violates every tenet of due process.
And very finally, the issue about conflict of interest. It's come up on the floor of the House.
I think it's something that has been exclusively reserved for the Commission of Human Rights and Administrative Justice. Even the courts will avoid a determination of conflict of interest issues, so far as that affects a public officer. The Supreme Court stated in the case that was filed by Okuyota Blakwa himself. And I'm surprised that today he turns around to take a contrary view. I wouldn't do that. I cannot file a matter in the Supreme Court, get a judgment given a certain way, and I go public and state a different view or act otherwise. I think it's totally in bad faith for them to. But the Supreme Court stated clearly that matters of conflict of interest have been exclusively reserved for charge. So and then the other matters which also impinge on unconstitutionality. Article 2, Clause 1 of the Constitution is quite clear. Any act or omission of a person alleged to be in contravention of the Constitution has to be determined by the Supreme Court. It's as simple as that. So until there has been a determination of unconstitutionality in respect of any act or omission by Honorable Ken Oforiatta, it will be totally improper for Parliament to proceed and probe such an issue and actually find an unconstitutionality. They'll be acting without authority.
Crucify him, the final words of the Finance Minister. What do you say to that?
Well, those things that go into the merit of it. I think that yes, on the merits he has defenses against the claims, but those are his views.
I want to thank you so much for spending some time with us, and that's the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, of course, the Honourable Godfred Ibo-Adami speaking to us there. You are still with us on the Joy News channel, and we're, of course, still in Parliament covering that process for you. Let's speak to the Minister in charge of Environment, Science and Technology. Dr. Efree is here. And Innovation, I need to add that as well. And I see that you were actually flared up when the process, of course, ended in a way we've all seen today. The fact that many of your colleagues have staged the walkout, including yourself, and you have some few points as well about even the process itself. Why are you not happy about what's happening today?
I'm not happy because the NDC, as usual, behaving true to type. They are disingenuous. They were taking advantage of something that has happened. That is very unfortunate. I will even be bold to admit that maybe the trajectory that some of these MPs took, even in my own caucus, was wrong. But you see, it's like a public opinion. When they came from the constituency, they said their constituents were angry and they took their umbrage on the finance minister. Now the matter is passed. Otherwise, we would have even debated within the MPP. I don't think 98 people even supported that. But I'll let that rest, because it is not good to engage in internecine fight. The finance minister has done no wrong, as per the evidence they have adduced. If there's a new incriminating evidence that they are going to bring, I will not...
Okay, let's talk about the Fiscal Responsibility Act, for instance. He's breached it by so many points. That's a clear grounds for moving that motion of censure.
That. We can look at the figures, we can look at the numerator, the denominator, and see how even they worked out and got it. You see? Look, let me tell you something. This Ghanaian, our finances, how they have been managed. Hitherto, I'm not a finance person, but this parastatal, even their debts, were not part of the government budget. By IMF, for example, they say Cocoa Board and other agencies, we should add their liabilities to our Ghanaian so that we qualify. But just a way of illustration, we will engage them. But if they have come the fiscal responsibility act that they are citing, we will dispute that. You know, I will dispute that they should come on that matter alone, because there were other things.
Okay. I'll ask you a question because you're a politician. Yes. Let's take it, your previous life, you used to manage a lot of, interest.
Yes.
If you are giving an appointee or a worker, say in the person of Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, and has performed in such a manner where, of course, he even admits that the economy is not healthy. That's the main primary duties he's been giving as the Finance Minister. And you have the fact sheet before you. What else would you have done?
You don't have the facts. But even if you had the facts, we must admit that we have been in a very, very difficult position that the whole world has never seen. Before COVID, there was no entity called COVID-19. You agree with me? Said that even almighty Germany was forced to ration vegetable oil. Only yesterday, I read that there was going to be an attempted coup in Germany. Do you know the origins? It's from these same hardships that have been wrought on the German polity because of COVID pandemic and the problems that arose. That those historically who were monarchs, some even wanted to come back. So we are in a very different situation. If you want to put anything on the finance minister, then you might as well indict Kokwefue stand here. You might as well indict our presidency. That is what the NDC was so.
And I guess all of these issues have been done on separate fronts, except that for now, the finance minister is the one facing some level of accountability because he's in charge of the public bank.
No, he's the face when it comes to, if it were environmental thing and we were doing, auditing as far as environment is concerned, I would be responsible. So somebody should be responsible. And I've sat in cabinet, I've been on several committees. This thing is an indictment. I see it as indictment on myself. That is not to say any other evidence that will come, I will accept. But per what the NDC has cited, it's an indictment on me, indictment on my cabinet. Indeed, even an indictment on the finance committee. Because for how long did they see that? Because they were citing over so many years. This accounting or financial cycles. They sat in there and they brought all these loans that they say, all this indebtedness, when they were approving it and recommending that we accept it. That finance committee is not a balanced committee.
You have a social contract with the people of Ghana. You promised the people of Ghana at the time you were coming into office that you're moving from taxation, borrowing, and you're going to move the economy into a production-centered one.
Yes, we still remain because...
Yeah, but you haven't done that clearly, looking at the level of debt that has been accumulated. The fact speaks for itself.
Look, the fact that I say that when I'm playing football, I'm playing all attacking football, it doesn't mean that in the next minute or next 3 minutes, I cannot be defending. This one is an interregnum. We know how to bring the economy back to life. What we do not know is how to resurrect dead people. And so the economy is in doldrum and we admit it. So it's not like we are not consistent. Look, when you look at economic development, this is only a blip. This is only a blip. Okay. And the same finance minister was the person who took us from IMF that we inherited and grew this economy, and in fact we went number one.
Okay, except that we're not there now any longer. And you are a member of parliament, so you appreciate the figures. Now let's talk about the decision to walk out of parliament. Some say that you are acting in party interest as compared to what it's supposed to be, national interest. You represent a constituency. Your constituents were expecting you to be part of the process and vote. Why are you walking out of parliament? Well, clearly,
parliament for 7 years also. I did not. That's where point of departure between me and some, because of my age. Let me use junior MPs on the MPP side. That is not to devalue them or to put them in an inferior position. Let me explain. But I've been around. I didn't get this. Yes, people were disappointed. Who will not be disappointed now? America, they are disappointed. Germany, they are disappointed. Europe, even some governments have even gone down under. So we admit it. But what we are saying is that there is no empirical evidence that the, what do you call it, the Ghanaian people wanted Oforiatta per se to go.
I'm asking about why you have decided to walk out when you could have participated in the process.
Good, excellency, excellent. Legitimacy. We do not want to lend legitimacy to what that they're doing. That pseudo or this kangaroo court that they are setting up in parliament.
You are a member of parliament. You do not want to describe that as
no, what the opposition was doing was kangaroo court.
The Speaker of the House has admitted it, which means that it warrants some level of debate. You know the parliamentary process is yourself. You need to exhaust the process. Why are you cutting it short?
No, we are not cutting it short. You see, we have got our strategies and our tactics that led to legitimacy. We debated them, and we up to the point that the majority leader spoke. We want Ghanaians to judge for themselves. You are journalists. You go and analyze all the, submissions that were made. You realize that what the NDC sought to do was much ado about nothing. And indeed, they are as guilty as sin, because at least I've cited that their members are two forcing them, they're members of the...
But Honorable Minister, is this about the NDC or about what's happening to our state of the economy and what the president needs to do?
You fail to get it. Our state of the economy, I have admitted that it's in a tailspin. It's in a bad place.
So we are all looking for solutions, and yet you are talking about the NDC.
But the solution is not that the finance minister, who just a little while ago was touted to be one of the best finance ministers in the world, suddenly becomes the fall guy. Do you know what it means? I have already told you that when I do that, it's an exercise in self-indictment. Because there are a lot of things that I'm privy to that we had heated debates. And really, whichever side I was on, I consider that I'll be part of it. So I will not cut out to the NDC and let them, or even let me say the opposition, and let them say that because the finance minister represents the face of the hardships that we are, encountering now. When I know that an extraordinary event has occurred in the world, a force majeure has occurred, the government has invested so much. For example, let me give you a go off tangent. Look, when we were investing money in this, teachers, the teaching profession, from university professor to KG, they were paid for over 1 year without doing any job. If you had money in the bank and you were running an entity, a company, you think you could survive that? And they were not alone. Health workers, people in the public services were divided. Some were even begged to stay at home without no productivity. And you think after going through that kind of thing, the economy can go on an even keel, and then that is why the man made that famous statement, which I have it translated in Latin. Next time because so profound. Now, we have had a relief. A lot of Ghanaians didn't die. Now it's time to pay up.
Okay, let's talk about the alternative then.
Yes.
Your own members of parliament on the ticket of the NPP earlier indicated that they wanted a finance minister out at all costs. I'm interested in knowing your position because your constituents are watching us live on Joy News now. Are you siding with the NPP?
I am not siding with them. Absolutely not.
So you want Ken to stay?
Yes.
Are you the only one left now?
I'm not the only man left standing. There are a lot of people, even among the MPs, who think like that. I have already answered you.
Yeah, but that's not the story we had. We had all of you wanted him out.
No. Look, that is why I'm saying that when you are a political animal, you should know when to speak up and when to keep quiet. It would not have looked good if Kokwefrie, who is not afraid to be alone. You check my background. I'm not afraid to be alone. I could have taken my own colleagues on. But that wasn't the time. Yenyinan kremu into tunkrani. Ena akuko ana sabi krama se wompene duania eno nkyerese akuko omeso sonko. Have you seen when you give your dog food and that is protesting that the meat is small, you let the chicken try and come and take it. That's what the NDC is doing. Even if some, for whatever reason, look, governance is a difficult proposition. Some of these MPs, yes, their roles have not been done. And they stand the real possibility of not coming back. So when they go there and then they come and tell this story, I agree with them in some way. But the answer is not that Oforiatta should go, because there is no money. My own say we also, Censure Road, we also Town Roads, Achechen Road, they've not been done. They are in the budget. And I'm cabinet minister. I'm taking the umbrage for it. You think I'll go and stand in the radio station and say that Mwakwata and Oforiatta are not doing the roads for me? Man, give me a break. I've come through this
and Ghanaians
collective, responsibility and collective, So that is it.
Ghanaians are still watching. And the question is, are you willing to pay that political price? No matter cost, it will come. Because the feeling is you are putting your own political party in a state of disaffection, and that you may lose the next election.
We will never lose this election. We are pressing this budget. It's reset button. And God willing, Ghanaians will even forget that this thing happened. Look, MPP, we are very resilient. Ghana is better off with us. And me, asking about personal things, I'm not too afraid to walk alone. If because of this, my constituents say that they will not bring me back, so be it.
Really?
Really, absolutely. You heard me. Let me tell you about me. You go and check. Me, I put so much premium on my MPship that even when it came for me to take minister and cabinet minister salary, I've refused. I take MP salary, just like Okujeto Abrakwa. And I'm not alone. We don't talk. But today is a thing. I take MP salary. Check.
But in all of this, the posture of your government is being, of course, questioned. Look at, for instance, some of the things you continue to do. Let's talk about the National Cathedral, for instance. There was clear evidence on the floor today that in spite of the exorbitant amounts we're paying for the project, just look at what's been done, for instance. Why not cut back on how you're spending?
What has been done? Let me put in a disclaimer. I am not an engineer. I have not been to the site. I suspect that even that picture was taken maybe some 3, 4, 5 months ago.
We've all seen the drone footages.
The drone footages, have you costed it? And the money that was released to them, have they used all of it? Perhaps a good part of it is even sitting in a bank account that they have not even utilized. I don't know. So I can't answer to that. You understand? But that is the decision of government, and I go with it. But what I'm telling you is that in all these processes, it came to that attention at least of the minority who were on the committee, and they approved of it. The first one that they wanted to use to indict him, they said that it was in the, what do you call it, I've forgotten the appropriate place that it was lodged. They were aware. They can't tell me that they were not aware. That this is a national project. We can all debate whether you are for or against. That is neither here nor there. But I believe that is even a small part of the problem. The problem is Ghana is facing an existential economic problem which was not wrought by a single person. Look, the person can even be a thief. We can take him out and this. But to impugn that it is because of somebody's incompetence and whatnot that we have come here, I beg. Then it means in essential, me too, I'm incompetent. because I participated in all the procedures and processes. And if my constituency say that they've judged it, then I cannot fight them. So be it.
All right, then. And we're grateful that you've been able to spend some time with us. That's Minister in charge of Environment, Science and Technology, Dr. Frey, talking to us. Earlier you heard from the Minister for Justice and Attorney General, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, who, of course, gave us a sense of why he showed up in Parliament today to present his legal opinion. Of course, he argued that Parliament and what's happening now in terms of the vote of censure was a quasi-judicial process, a reason for which, of course, some of the processes and procedure would have to be reformed or reviewed. We've seen all of this play out, but in the end, the majority has taken their stance on this. We're still here in Parliament covering all of that for you here on the Joy News channel. My colleague, Kweku Asante, parliamentary correspondent, is still here with us. And Kweku, it's been a long day filled with so many arguments. We've heard from the majority side of the House again, and in the end, we were expecting this, didn't we?
Exactly. You know, prior to today, we had picked signals that the majority were not going to participate in this vote. How were they going to do that? We were not in the know, because we know the party had put out a statement saying that they should not take part in this vote. So the inkling was that they were going to even sit through the proceeding, and then when their names are mentioned, they say they are abstaining. Because as I speak to you, the vote is currently happening on the floor. The minority MPs have been called by name one after the other, and they are voting on Ken Ofori-Atta. So our expectation was that they were going to sit through. So this caught all of us by surprise a little bit. Not that we did not know that they were not going to vote. But now there are constitutional issues to raise. There are currently not more than 136 MPs on the floor of the House. The Constitution and the standing orders of Parliament are clear. For Parliament to vote on any matter, there must be at least half of all MPs present. Half of all MPs, that is 275 MPs, half of that is 137.5. Right. 137.5 is not real, so that would be 138. Even if you say 137, the minority are not up to 137, because if you have to assume that all of them are here, that would mean that Jachikwesin is also there, 137, and he is not, because he has been barred by the court.
So very critical constitutional matters.
Right, so they are 136 over there at the moment. Right. But the thing is that someone has to draw the attention of the Speaker that, Mr. Speaker, we don't have the quorum. Right. Who will do that?
Obviously, the majority side
will not do that, and the majority
side is not present. So it promises to be a very long process, a long night it is. Stay with us here on the Joy News channel. We're taking a short break here. When we return, we'll uncover all the matters for you. Stay with us.
This one there is some map. It is black. Let me see. That map no dey here. No. I want to surround. Yeah, we have the one, but we use this one. Block the one before you can put it here direct. I will wait.
So voting has just ended. The counting is done. The declaration is just about to be made, and the results is being transmitted via the clerks at table to the Speaker of Parliament, and very soon we will know exactly what the vote, the total vote and the final vote is for the censure motion against Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. Remember, for this censure motion to succeed, the minority MPs need to garner 2/3 of all MPs to vote for it. Already on the floor, it's only them who are currently here. They are at most 136. It means they do not meet the constitutional threshold to pass a censure motion against the finance minister. But a message would have been sent that at least a number of MPs who were present on the floor voted to remove Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. The NPP MPs, as you may know, have walked out. And if you look at the NPP side of the House, the majority side of the House, the seats are virtually empty because the majority leader led his side to walk out of the chamber. And that is what we've seen in Parliament so far. The minority are filled up in their seats, almost all of them present, but the majority side of the House is empty because the majority have boycotted this voting process. You see there that the minority side is filled up, the majority side is empty, and polling agent Sam George out there leading another count. Okay, so there's a recount of the votes of the MPs on the censure motion against Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. We don't know exactly what may have happened. So that voting has just ended, and a recount is currently happening. We do not know why that recount is necessary, and Sam George is protesting. He's trying to find out why exactly that recount is needed. But I've also just seen a number of the minority MPs rush towards the days where the voting was done and the counting was held. So there's some sort of disagreement. The NDC MPs say they do not agree to the recount and they want to do that. So I'm sure we'll get some clarifications later on as to why they are raising those issues that they are raising currently. So the voting has ended in Parliament. This is still Joy News and our live coverage. All day you've been with us of the censure motion hearings against Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. The majority side, led by their leader, Osei Chairman Sabunsu, have walked out. They boycotted proceedings, and only the minority were involved in that vote, and is expected to go on. And so very soon we expect the Speaker of Parliament, Alban, Kingsford, Sumana, Bagben, to declare what the results of the vote has been. Yes, the Speaker says the MPs should resume their seats. We only have a house. The Speaker says the minority should resume their seat. We only have a house of minority MPs. And why exactly is this happening? So the Speaker is declaring.
On the two motions. I've been given the figure already. So I have the figure, those who have voted. Honorable members, the first is what is on the order paper today. The motion on the order paper for today is for us to adopt the report of the ad hoc committee. So I'll put the question on that, and that one is a voice vote. Then I'll put the question on the resolution for the vote of censure, which, as you know, according to the article, is a secret vote which you have done, and that has a percentage that will support it. So the first vote is to be taken on the motion number 21, which will be a voice vote. Those in favor of the motion number 21 on the order paper at page 16, say aye. Those against, say no. The ayes have it. The vote is agreed upon. So the report of the committee, that is the ad hoc committee, has accordingly been adopted. And I'll put the question on the motion that was moved by the minority leader and seconded by the minority chief whip, which is what resolved in the resolution. And so the resolution reads as follows. Whereas by the provisions of Article 82 of the Constitution, and Orders 106 and 108 of the Standing Orders of Parliament, this House
hereby resolves as follows. To pass a vote of censure on the minister responsible for finance. Those in favor after the secret vote is 136. Those against, 0. Abstentions, 0. Now, in accordance with Article 82(1), which reads, Parliament may, by a resolution supported by the votes of not less than 2/3 of all the members of Parliament, pass a vote of censure on a Minister of State. Following the terms of Article 82(1), the vote is accordingly lost. Honourable members, the minority leader to say a word.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you very much and indulge you and make a comment for the purpose of the record and for the purpose of posterity. You have guided this House so well, at least in the novelty of a watershed in the exercise of the mandate of Parliament when it comes to parliamentary oversight. But, Mr. Speaker, few lessons for the future. Few lessons for the future. One, Mr. Speaker, the report that we have adopted failed to make a finding of facts and to make recommendations. Probably into the future. I know that is not your wish. In the interest of openness and accountability, a committee of that stature appointed by you must be able to relate the words of those alleging against those who want proof, so that the committee must make a finding of fact so that they can make appropriate recommendations. Because, Mr. Speaker, if I peruse your committee's report, this is just for the record. For instance, on the vexed issue of conflict of interest, with borders on unethical behavior, which the Constitution of 1992 frowns upon, doesn't it lie within the powers of Parliament, as observed by Professor Prempe of CGD, that at least the committee can probe further? I mean, if we say that people have benefited, the only way to know they have benefited is to know who issued which bond when, who were the bond holders, book holders, who got what. We will know the entities. And if the entities are related to persons in authority, appropriate recommendations be made thereof. Even though one can only agree with the committee when they say that we have no jurisdiction. Yes, we do not have. The jurisdiction lies within the Ombudsman of Shiraj, created under the same 1992 Constitution. But, Mr. Speaker, as you observe, Article 104 imposes a burden on Parliament when a committee is asked to investigate. The committee should not be in a haste to conclude its work. After all, many of the issues were raised. You can probe further. For instance, the picture we've shown of Cathedral. At least next time, the committee should be able to go to the site and come back. Because in all this, Mr. Speaker, we want Ghanaians to have value for money, for the taxpayers' money. But I cannot thank you but recognize that history will remember you, that this was your contribution to the exercise of parliamentary oversight, to hold the executive accountable, especially when you have a president who says that I will not reshuffle. Some other institutional authority must do the reshuffle on his behalf. We have sent a clear signal to him that we have passed a vote of no confidence on the minister because there is true hardship. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, And Mr. Speaker, if they had not worked out and honored their earlier promise, they would have been saving this country. Because, Mr. Speaker, where we are, the country is in life support. What we have done is to give it some oxygen for the next few days. That may not be enough to the unknown world. So, Mr. Speaker, this will be your contribution for the. We will remember you that at least we moved a vote of censure, recognized by Article 82. We'll walk through the process, and I'm sure tomorrow people will know that this parliament can hold them accountable. But for the majority walkout, we leave them to the Ghanaian people to know those who stood strong with them in their times of hardships and in their times of need, that they abandon them because they simply don't care. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Honorable members, one of our senior statesmen, actually I'll refer to him as elder statesman, told me a story that when they were in school, a gentleman used to visit them, and whilst walking on the street, he would be repeating one statement. I quote, "If you don't die early, you will see things. If you don't die early, you will see things." I've been praying to God to allow me not to die early so that I can see things. I am not yet old, but I have started seeing things. With this, I will proceed to adjourn the House. The House is accordingly adjourned to tomorrow at 10 in the morning. The House is adjourned.
Parliament has just adjourned after a vote of censure on Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta was concluded. The information is that the vote has lost because the minority were not able to meet the constitutional threshold of 2/3 of all MPs present. 136 of them actually were on the floor today, and they voted for the motion, but that is not enough because for the censure motion to pass, you need 2/3 of all MPs present to be voting for the censure. That is 183 at least should have voted for this motion. They did not get that, and so this censure motion has failed. They walk away with disappointment, and just like you heard there, the majority leader saying they would have expected that their colleagues in the NPP would have joined them in this enterprise to vote and remove Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, but that they did not do that. And so we will be going out shortly to get some reaction from the NDC MPs who are now filing out of the parliamentary chamber. They are the only ones here today. Out of now, normally the NPP MPs would have been here, but they are the only ones here. And so very soon we'll cut short this broadcast, but we'll go out there for some reactions from the minority from this disappointing spectacle. But you know, up front is up next with Raymond Akwa and his guest. They will look into this matter and go into the various nitty-gritty, speak to all the key players. But for now, this is how we end this part of the broadcast and get out there to get some reactions from the minority.
So this